the next 2 weeks, you will be working on a research paper on a topic of your choice. You will be expected to watch video tutorials on each step of the research writing process. Those will be provided for you in your LMS. This video today will give you an overview of expository nonfiction, which is the style of writing you will use for your research paper. You will also see a student sample of a research paper, and we will take a look at the steps that student took to write that research paper. Writing a research paper may seem to be a big challenge, but once you break down the process into smaller steps and complete each step one step at a time, it becomes easier than you think. First, let's take a look at expository nonfiction, because this is the style of writing you will use for your research paper. Expository nonfiction gives facts about a topic. It's all factual based. You're not making things up as you go. This is actually based on information that you look up and find in various locations on the internet or in textbooks or regular books from the library, a variety of places. And expository nonfiction will include possibly headings or diagrams or photographs and captions. You can think about any nonfiction that you might have read recently, and kind of look to see those different different criterion in the nonfiction that you've seen. So take a look at this story that we read in that fourth graders recently read. It's called Dragons and Dinosaurs, and it is about studying dinosaurs and dinosaur bones from ancient times. So you can tell that this is more of a research report because it has the information, and it will also at the end include a list of books, articles, and websites that writer used to find the information. So we're going to be taking a look at an example of Alex's research report. Alex is a student who wrote a research report, and we're going to pay attention to the features, the text features, and which would be like similar, like headings, diagrams, photographs, and so forth, and then the organization, the way the report is organized. Before we take a look at Alex's paper, let's take a look at this so that you can see what I'm talking about. This author, this is just a part of an essay of a research paper, and the author has a heading here, "If We Only Had a Brain," which kind of gets the reader interested in reading more. And then the heading, of course, "If We Only Had a Brain," relates to the details below. And this all has to do with Tyrannosaurus rex, the largest skeleton found, and they've called that Tyrannosaurus rex Sue. So it's talking about how the researchers learned more about Sue's brain based on some of the things that they did. So this whole paragraph here is all about the brain research that they did on Sue, looking at the skeleton, looking at the remains of Tyrannosaurus rex Sue, to determine more about the brain that Sue might have had inside of her head. So this is organized. This author organized this so that we see each of the steps, step by step, how the process was done, how they did this scanning to read more about the brain. So that's one way that things can be organized in a step-by-step process if you're describing the way something happened. Now let's take a look at Alex's example, and this is the student writing model. And of course, if we look at the introductory paragraph below, and if we look throughout the whole essay itself, we will know that it's a research paper if it is a kind of expository nonfiction. In other words, it's written more in a story format, even though it's all factual information. This is not a made-up story. That's why it's nonfiction. It is true, but it is expository, written in sort of a bookish kind of way, in a way that more of a narrative approach where it reads more like a story. So if it's kind of an expository nonfiction, if it gives information about a topic, factual information, and then if it includes a list of sources. So this particular article is on the La Brea tar pits. And again, this is by Alex G. So this would be the introductory paragraph. And in the introduction, this author gave the topic and then 3 supporting ideas. And those 3 supporting ideas then will be detailed. We'll learn about more in detail. There will be examples of each of those supporting ideas in the next paragraphs. So right here, over thousands of years, animals became trapped in these pools of sticky asphalt. Millions of fossils have been found in the tar. People have benefited from the tar pits in many ways, especially by learning about the past. Each of those sentences then will have a paragraph attached to it in the rest of the research paper. So it's important to put your main idea and your big supporting ideas in that introductory paragraph. And again, each of these are the first 2 paragraphs of the main body of the research paper, and there's one more on the next screen that we'll see. But each of those headings talks about the information that was listed in that first paragraph, that the sentences were made into in the first paragraph. So the first section is about formation of the tar pits, and then this goes on to describe how the tar pits were formed. And how they were able to see those, and what happened, and how the animals' bones became preserved in those tar pits. And then again, additional facts and details, fossils in the pits. That was the next sentence, but we have again more details, detailed description and examples of of that main supporting idea. And then in the last paragraph here about the benefits to humans, that was one of the other sentences in the introductory paragraph. And then at the very end here, the final paragraph is just going to recapture, re-summarize what was said at the beginning to support, what the rest of the research paper was about. So you can see here, if you pause and read this, you will be able to see the different types of sentences in the report. Again, this first sentence here and the last paragraph asks a question, which is a good way to spur the reader to want to read more. And again, the conclusion sums up the supporting ideas. So how do we know La Brea Tar Pits is nonfiction? Well, we see details in here, actual facts that we could back up by sources. The text features found in expository nonfiction are, in this case, subheadings. And then there will also be, we would hope to find sources listed at the very end. And of course, the topic is about La Brea Tar Pit, the La Brea Tar Pits. We know that because that's the title, and it's referred to throughout the research report. And then the 3 ideas that support the topic were those that about the benefits to humans, how they were formed, and then how the fossils were formed inside the tar pits. So once the research paper is done, remember that you have to give credit to the sources. And right here are 3 sources where Alex found information. These were all from actual pamphlets. None of these happen to be online sources, but we will see how you can show those sources later. But you have the author and the title of the source, and then the publisher in the case that it's been published, and then the date, publishing date. Let's back up for a minute and take a note that Alex, and you can pause this to look at it and read it carefully, but Alex, the first thing Alex had to do after choosing the topic was to find facts. And in doing that, Alex made note cards, getting the information from a variety of sources. So right here is an example of one of his note cards. Mammals, and he talked about the different kinds of mammals, mammoths, saber-toothed cats, and camels. Those were the mammal fossils found in La Brea tar pits. So again, just notation does not have to be in sentence form, but each resource, he would make a note card for that. And if you're typing all of it, you could type your information out and just make sure that you put the source below it. That way you can keep track of where you found your information and give credit at the end. After writing those note cards, then Alex had to take a look at the note cards and figure out how they were going to all fit together. And he pulled all of those note cards together, read all of those note cards, and then organized them into an outline format that made sense. So again, right here, we see those 3 topics. This is the introduction right here. And then topic 1 is the formation of the tar pits, how they're formed, and then the fossils found there, and then how those tar pits are useful to humans. So that helped Alex to kind of get those facts in an order. Then the writing comes at the very end. But the information and then the conclusion at the very end, I'm sorry, summing up those supporting ideas and why this topic is important, why Alex chose this topic. So once the outline is written, then Alex needed to create sentences based on those notes. So this concludes this introduction. The steps to writing a research paper are pre-writing, 4 pre-writing steps. First, narrowing the topic, then generating research questions, and then taking notes, and then creating an outline. And then the actual drafting part, which is what students tend to think that they have to do first, and they don't. The writing portion, where you're actually doing the writing, doesn't come until after you've done those 4 pre-writing activities. So then you create paragraphs and elaborate, make them expand on them during the drafting process. And then in the revising process, you might add transitions, make things more clear in your writing, and then finally proofreading at the very end to check your sources, make sure you have those listed, and then evaluate and publish. You'll go through and use a rubric at the end, and you'll publish your report at the very end with all of those parts. So that really, we will go through each of those steps in tutorials. You'll be able to see those and review them anytime, and review them as often as you need.